The economy screen already lets you pick several countries and overlay them on one line chart. That part worked. But two things were quietly broken. First, the chart colors were hard-coded. Germany got the module accent, France got sienna, Poland got olive, and literally everything else, Italy, Spain, any EU aggregate, fell back to whatever accent Germany was already using. Pick a fifth country and it visually disappears into the first line. Second, the chart plotted raw GDP in millions of euros. Germany's economy is roughly 10 times the size of Poland's, so on a shared axis, Poland's line is a flat stripe near zero. You cannot see whether Poland is actually growing faster. This commit fixes both, a proper series palette and an Indexed-100 rebasing step, wired together behind one pill toggle. Here is the actual code this commit deletes from economyscreen.kt. A private colorfoyer function takes a country code and an accent color and switches on it. DE returns the accent. FR returns a hard-coded sienna constant called Syriza. PL returns a hard-coded olive constant called Syriza. And the else branch checks if the code starts with EU for a muted sand color. Otherwise, it just returns the accent again. That last fallback is the bug. The country picker sheet lets you select any combination of Eurostat country codes, but this function only has real answers for 3 of them. Any other selection collapses onto the same color as Germany. This is not a palette, it is a lookup table sized for a 3-country demo, not for a real comparison feature. The fix lives in a brand new file in core charts model seriespalette.kt. It is an object not tied to any specific country, holding a list of 8 editorial muted colors: slate blue, sienna, olive, terracotta, dusty plum, muted teal, ochre, and the low contrast muted sand, deliberately placed last. The public entry point is colored, which takes an index and returns colors at index.mod of color size. That mod call matters. Kotlin's mod function is Euclidean, so even a negative index resolves to a valid position in the list instead of throwing an exception or returning a negative array index. The doc comment on this object is explicit about the design rule. Assign colors by the series stable index in the rendered list, never by country code. So any combination of picked countries gets visually distinct colors without a hard-coded mapping anywhere. Seriespalettes.kt covers exactly the properties that matter for a cycling palette. First, a cycle allows averaveradest. Maps every index from 0 to 7 through colorat, puts the results in a set and asserts the set size still equals 8, no 2 of the 8 editorial colors are accidentally identical. Cycles past the palette size asserts that color out of size equals color out of 0 and that the pattern holds at size plus 3 and 2 times size plus 1, so a 9th, 10th, or 20th series still gets a valid repeating color instead of an index out of bounds crash. Negative does the co-tellers equals colors equal from answer collat of -1 equals color at size -1 equals color out of -1 equals color out of size of. Together, these 4 tests pin down that colorat is a total function. Every int you can construct maps to one of the 8 colors. Now look at how build chart series changes in economyscreen.kt. Before, it took an accent color parameter and called timeseries.map, and inside the lambda, it called the now deleted color 4 with the country code and that accent. After this commit, the accent parameter is gone entirely, and map becomes map indexed. The lambda now receives both an index and map indexed. The lambda now is The color assignment becomes a single line, series palette.color out of index. Everything else, filtering points to the visible year range, mapping each point through field 4 of metric to build a chart point, and constructing the final chart series with a label and its points, stays the same. Diff also deletes color for series firish ev-right and series pl outright. There is no dead code left behind. The entire hard-coded lookup table is replaced by one call into the new palette object. The second half of this commit is comparison mode state. Economy intent gets a new sealed variant, setNormalized, a data class wrapping a single boolean called normalized. The doc comment explains a deliberate choice. This is modeled as an absolute setter rather than a toggle, specifically so that a replayed or duplicated intent stays idempotent. Sending setNormalized true twice in a row produces the same state as sending it once. Over in default economy component, a new private var called normalized, defaulting to false, sits right beside the existing selected metric and selected year fields. The onIntent handler adds a branch when the intent is set normalized. It assigns intent.normalized. It assigns intent.normalized into that var and calls re-render from last data, the same client-side re-render path used for selecting a year with no network call. The actual math lives in a new file, seriesNormalization.kt, in a function called rebase to index. It takes a list of chart series and maps each one through map.not_null. For every series, it reads the y value of the first point, the base. If that base is null, meaning the first visible observation is a gap, or if the base is exactly 0, the function returns null for that series, which drops it from the result entirely, rather than rendering it on the wrong scale or dividing by 0. Otherwise, it copies the series, mapping every point's y value through it divided by base times index thus base, where index thus base is a private constant equal to 100.0. Any null y value later in the series, a genuine data gap, is preserved as null rather than being coerced into a number. Labels and colors are carried over unchanged. Only the y values are rebased. In economy screen's chart card, a pill toggle component now sits above the chart with two options, absolute and Indexed-100, defined in a private list called normalization labels. Its selected index reads state.normalized as 0 or 1, and on select dispatches economy intent.setNormalized with the chosen index equal to 1. Right below it, the remember block that builds chart series now includes state.normalized in its key list. It computes the absolute series with build chart series as before, and then, only if normalized is true, pipes that result through rebase to index. The X's label follows the same flag. It shows index first year equals 100 when normalized, otherwise falls back to the existing y-axis label for the selected metric. Toggling the pill recomputes both the lines and the label instantly with 0 refetch from the repository. seriesNormalization test.kt has 9 cases. Rebase is does so first, I spell it 120, 100 turns 50, 75, 100 into 100, 150, 200.shrubs, I squenty 100.20, 100.21, first 5 squenty 100.21 v0, guns v0 card removes that series but keeps a healthy sibling series intact. Drops as series first, R value is as a dusk a null series cap, and drops empty series car, but is as alphas cover the other two dropped case, Preserves alphas cover the other two dropped cases. Preserves always iriska after iriska. First point confirms a later null stays null after rebasing rather than becoming none. Preserves ziriska covers always. Meanwhile, economy in test gets a new test verifying set normalized updates state.normalized without incrementing the fake repository's observe call count, and that the flag survives a fresh repository reemission because it is owned by the component, the same way selected metric is. The commit message states the full feature economy suite. 50 tests, all green. This commit turns an overlay chart into an actual comparison tool. Series palette assigns 8 distinct editorial muted colors by series index, so any combination of picked countries stays visually legible, cycling safely past 8 series and even for negative indices. Rebase to index is a small, pure, fully tested function. Divide by the first visible value, multiply by 100, drop what cannot be rebased, keep the gaps that are genuinely missing. The pill toggle ties both together with one boolean living in component state, so it survives rotation and reemission without touching the network. Nothing here requires a new API call or a schema change. It is domain-shaped math and the color assignment rule, both covered by tests. If you want to land on exactly this step in your own clone, check out commit 88AD4D. Subscribe for more real commit Kotlin multi-platform builds.